traditional Chinese equivalent of Valentine's Day takes place every year on the seventh day of the seventh month of a lunar calendar, known as the Quixi, a festival. This holiday celebrates the pure love between a young cowherd and a heavenly fairy. In a remarkable story, it's one of China's most famous folk tales. The story begins high up in the heavens, where seven sisters are playing in their celestial palace. They are the granddaughters of the powerful heavenly Queen Mother, and the youngest of them is the most adored of all. Her job in the palace is to weave magical skills from the clouds, and so she is simply known as the Weaver Girl. One day, the Weaver Girl and her sisters come up with an unusual idea. They want to visit the immortal realm. This is generally forbidden, but they go try their luck begging the heavenly Queen Mother for permission. They plead and cajole, and their innocent charm softens the Queen Mother, who relents and allows them to go have fun. The fairies descend to earth and play and swim in the waters of the emerald lotus pond. Just as they are bathing in their clothes, resting on the rocks by the edge of the pond, a giant gray ox bounds out of the forest and heads toward the water. The other fairies quickly dress and fly off, but the Weaver Girl is too late. The mischievous ox has her clothes. A young man then suddenly appears, frantically chasing his ox. The humble herd, Howard ties, retrieving the Weaver Girl's clothing for her, as she covers herself modestly, hiding in the water. Behind the rock, the cowherd finally conquers his bovine beast, returns the fairy her dress, and looks away, and she makes herself decent again. As the Weaver Girl emerges to thank him, she sees something different in his eyes, and so it begins an unusual friendship between heaven and earth. As the Weaver Girl falls in love with the simple yet genuine nature of the earnest cowherd, she decides to marry him and stay in his village in the mortal world. There's one problem though: the heavenly decrees prohibit gods from marrying humans. Again, off the top of my head, when the heavenly Queen Mother finds out that her beloved daughter has fallen in love with a mortal, she is furious and sends her celestial troops to capture the Weaver Girl and return her home. The sky darkens as the menacing celestial army descends upon the village, seizing the Weaver Girl, and tears the lovers apart with one wave of her magical hairpin. The heavenly Queen Mother creates a deep gorge that becomes a raging river, preventing the cowherd from reaching his true love. The young man is heartbroken, yet determined, throwing all caution to the wind. He leaps into the churning waters, fighting until his last breath to reunite with his bride. But the force of the celestial storm is too great, and the waters too violent. With one last terrible wave, the young man is overpowered, loses consciousness, and begins to sink deep into the bottom. All along, the heavenly Queen Mother has been watching from above. She must admit that the man's sincere heart and determination are quite impressive touch. She sends a beam of light deep into the river, corralling of the limp body of a young man and lifting him back up the shore. He awakes, coughs up some river, and stands back up, no worse for wear. At last, the star-crossed lovers cannot live together as a married couple, but the Queen Mother feels for them and devises a compassionate solution. Once a year, on the seventh day of the seventh month, the lovers are allowed to reunite. The cowherd is granted passage to the sky, ascending the bridge formed by a flock of magpies. Magpies around mine are forever there between heaven and earth. He meets the Weaver Girl, who comes down to spend a day with her love. Once a year from that day, for Chinese people have celebrated the couple with the Quixi festival, a reminder of the power of true love, innocence, and devotion. There's a spin Chinese religion, Chinese stories of folklore. Legends are like the shifting sands of the desert, forever changing, hard to grasp. Legend is no different, and there are many versions. The Jade Emperor, ruler of heaven, had 10 unworldly sons. One day they transformed themselves into 10 suns, heartlessly scorching the earth from high up in the heavens. Unable to stop their mischief, the Jade Emperor summoned Huayi, an archer renowned for his marksmanship. The emperor commanded the immortal to teach him his sons a lesson. Huayi descended to earth and saw its suffering with his own eyes. Everything was charred and lifeless, and his people were in agony, filled with righteous indignation. He acted, plucking an arrow from his satchel. He took aim at the sons. First one fell down, then another, and the end 9 of the Jade Emperor's sons were dead. Huayi left only one son alive to give the earth light and warmth. Upon hearing the news, the Jade Emperor was furious. He banished Huayi and his beautiful wife Change from heaven, stripping them of their immortality. They were not forced to live on earth and ordinary mortals. The pair found human life hard and miserable. Although a hero to mankind, Huayi had a single wish: to avoid the death that awaited all mortals and return to heaven with his beloved wife. She at least did not deserve to suffer. Fortunately, Huayi recalled that the immortal Queen Mother of the West, who lived on Earth, had a rare supply of the elixir of immortality. The hopeful archer left on an arduous journey to seek her aid. After countless difficulties, he finally reached her palace on sacred Mount Kunlun. Learning of their plight, the merciful Queen Mother gave Huayi 2 things. One was the elixir, the other was a warning: drinking half the elixir will grant everlasting life. The entire elixir, however, will make one ascend to heaven as a full-fledged immortal, half for himself, half for his wife. It was all Huayi who could have hoped for. But when Huayi reunited with Change, she was thrilled over his success. Yet while her husband was resting from his journey, she could not resist peeking at the elixir. He brought back her eagerness to become immortal, tempted her into drinking the entire potion. Before long, she felt her limbs grow weightless, and she began to float into the sky against her will. As a banished deity, she could no longer return to heaven. Earth was now beyond her grasp as well. With nowhere else to go, Change drifted to the desolate moon, where she spent the rest of her days in a lonely palace accompanied by a white rabbit. She wept bitterly for her husband Huayi, who was condemned to live the rest of his days on Earth as a common man. Again, inside of my head, Chinese mythology again. The Goan is the most ancient form of a ballistic weapon. Over the Chinese bow is believed to have been invented over 4,000 years ago. Archery was known as one of the 6 ancient arts that a gentleman must master, the others being calligraphy, math, rites, music, and chariot riding. Archery was not only an athletic activity, but also a way of improving character and displaying a refined personality. And the Analects, Confucius said, the gentleman must not compete, but forced to he shall compete in archery. Before the match, they must bow to each other, and afterwards they drink to each other. Thus, the competition is gentlemanly. Shenyang's dance imperial archers sends the audience back to ancient China, where a group of young men prepare to defend their country. The Xiuyang, Peace Lady of the Moon, is based on the legend of 9 scorching suns that suddenly appear in the sky, bringing devastation upon the earth. Fortunately, the hero Huayi uses a magical bow to shoot down all the extra suns, not neglecting to leave one up there. Rhyming forever and ever. Chinese mythology forever and ever. Legends are like a shifting sands of the desert, forever changing, hard to grasp. This legend is no different, and there are many versions. The Jade Emperor, ruler of heaven, had 10 unruly sons. One day, they transformed themselves into 10 suns, heartlessly scorching the earth from high up in the heavens. Unable to stop their mischief, the Jade Emperor summoned Huayi, an archer renowned for his marksmanship. The Emperor commanded the immortal to teach his sons a lesson. Huayi descended to earth and saw its suffering with his own eyes. Everything was charred and lifeless, relentless. The religion, knowledge, one of China's 4 literacy classics, Outlaws of the Marsh. As the story goes, in the 11th century, a terrible plague befell the land, and Emperor Renzong ordered his marshal to request a cure from a famous Taoist priest. The marshal followed the order, but when he found the Taoist monastery, things began to go awry. He accidentally set free 108 stars of destiny. These stars were once demonic overlords. They consisted of 36 heavenly spirits and 72 earthly fiends. 36 heavenly spirits and 72 earthly fiends. Long ago, they were banished from heaven as punishment, but their repentance made their release possible. Escaping to the human world, they reincarnated as the so-called 108 heroes of Mount Lion, forming the group of predestined outlaws in the book. Due to their dubious origins, these heroes all met with unlucky fates on Earth. Some were framed by corrupt officials, others befriended unwholesome characters. Many became fugitives after killing scoundrels in righteous fury, or while trying to protect innocent people. Eventually, fate gathered them Mount Lion, where they united as brothers under the motto reclaiming justice under heaven's decree. The group's leader's son, Jian, had one wish for the emperor to grant amnesty to him and his brothers. The emperor, however, saw the outlaws as a threat and tried to overwhelm them with a military force. He only relented in the face of the group's amazing martial prowess, for these were skilled martial artists, some with credible powers. After the emperor removed the order for a day's rest, the heroes journeyed back to the capital. On the way, they managed to quash the rebellion of Fan La. They yet suffered many casualties. Only 27 of the original 108 heroes survived. Lu Zishan and Wu San decided to stay behind. The rest of the group reached the capital and were offered government posts by their former enemies. Unfortunately, it was a trick, and they all met their doom. Fruit of the loom, standing for ether and ether, Chinese folklore and Chinese mythology. For eternity beyond infinity is the infinity.